Let's please welcome Löwendahl, the first VASAB secretary, to tell you about the early history of this organization and perhaps a bit about later phase as well.
Hello everyone, can you hear me with this microphone? Good. And of course, when I got this invitation, I felt, wow, it's something special to meet old friends again after some 20 years. And of course, this Baltic family has been changed a little bit, but most of you are more or less the same, and me too. And it was 22 years ago since I had the opportunity to start working with VASAB, you know. And I will give you some experience from my time in Karlskrona, looking backwards, and that's not so easy because I like to go forwards and try to be involved in future development. But now I have to look backwards, and of course I haven't gone through all my basic historical documents. I have taken note of some, but I will do something more personal reflection in my head. What has happened and how did we work 93 to 95. And first, of course, I'm happy that VASAB now, Tallinn, Tallinn has been able to organize this event, and also thank the hosting country, Estonia. And of course, I'm a bit nervous because I really don't know to make presentation nowadays without any PowerPoint, which has been common in our time nowadays. But when we started, it was not possible. I will come back to that. And the initiative, as all of you know, was taken by the Swedish minister, Görel Thurdin. She was in the Ministry of Environment and responsible for planning, spatial planning. But the word was not invented at that time. It was called physical planning in Sweden. And I'm sorry that Görel Thurdin herself is not among us, but she couldn't come. But she is still working hard in other fields, and she has written a 2-page paper, and it is in your registration map. And I got it early this morning, so I know some new ideas behind her initiative taken 1992 in Karlskrona. And I thought it was first discussed in the Nordic Council of Ministers, it said officially. But she mentioned that in a very interesting conference in Ankara, 92, organized by the Council of Europe, the idea came up because she saw maps presented where the Europe and Baltic states and Sweden and Nordic countries were not on the map. It seemed that the world didn't understand that this is some northern part of Europe which has to be shown. So she was perhaps angry, but also inspired to start this work. And after some discussion in the Council of Ministers, she invited, as you know, responsible ministers on national level, but also German regions, Länder, to come to Karlskrona 92 in August. And the document should be prepared, and it was a good paper already presented in Karlskrona by the Baltic Institute, nearly just at that time started to be able to organize this conference. And they talk about a Baltic spatial plan sometimes, a spatial planning. But as you know, we all involved started to make vision and strategies around the Baltic, and not any kind of mega spatial plan. And that has been very important to understand what should the product look like, and in Tallinn it was presented, a visionary document. And to start to make a visionary document was not so, we were not so experienced perhaps, but I remember one very, very important meeting, or more a workshop in Bornholm, very early 93. And we gathered all the group of focal points, where Jan Kollegowski was the first chairman, already appointed, you can say, in autumn 92, I think, and we start work together in 93. And this Bornholm meeting was something where the creative, proactive thinking started, and with some Danish supporter consultant, and we made a fantastic job, which after half a year or more, the structure was already in place. Strings, pearls, patches, and the system. So the whole work was to structure something which relevant for long-term strategic on the space, on the territory, but also learning together about the planning system, how to deal with such a big task, to have a long-term or a future opinion about possible perspective. So that was what it started, and I'm not going to go through the document, how it came through, but I can say the second conference was in Gdańsk, and already in Gdańsk, after almost 1 year, I think it was in December, the structure was presented, and then it took not more than half a year, or during 94, to present a document for the group of focal point and all consultants in 1.5 years, which was more developed than the work on the ESTP organized by the Commission. So I can say that the document and the work by the VASAB people were really quick work. And the reason for that I'm not going into, but it was fantastic work. And myself, I learned a lot as being the secretary. And we also started to discuss at that time common values, overall goals, and very important basic development, environmental sustainability, freedom, and solidarity. So it was really going basic, what should be the new way to think in a area where a lot of transition had started. And the practical work in Karlskrona, what I remember, I put something in the small paper I have distributed to the Secretariat. It was started in 93 with internal communication problem. You know, 93, there were no invention of internet doesn't exist. When I saw 94 in summertime, that something was called WWW, World Wide Web, I thought it's nothing for me. I will be retired before I understand what this is about. So it was another time. We use overheads and we draw our slides and so on. And the communication with the group of focal points and other organizations that we needed to get some support for the document, we had to write fax, telefax. And I can tell you it took 1, 2, 3 days to get the telefax through to all Baltic states, Russia, Kaliningrad. And I had to use a special office in Stockholm during the night to send out 10, 12 fax. So most of my time in the beginning was to sit at the fax machine and try to come back again. You can't remember, the youngest of you is perhaps not here, the young of the family, but it was internal communication took time, and through the very strong support from Görel Thurdin in the ministry, she helped me to go to Riga and go to Vilnius to look to place facilities, fax facilities. I remember Gordevicius there, and I remember in Tallinn. So my work was very practical, even if I took part in some high-level professional discussion also. But mostly it took time to organize a meeting and to get some statistics or interests from all countries. So we together could make this report, Vision and Strategies Around the Baltic 2010. And besides my time in the Secretariat of Telecommunication, telefax, it was the broad, started very quick, broad networking with other pan-Baltic organizations existing at that time. Many started, you know, Council of the Baltic Sea States important, and UBC, blah, blah, I can't, Helcom and other, and later on Baltic 21 and so on. And I know that we were traveling around, me and some of you, to to build alliances with those and try to get them understand that we are together making a kind of long-term spatial perspective, vision and strategies. And that took time and was very, very interesting and important. Because Görel Thurdin had already in the beginning the idea that it's an intergovernment, the will and the strong political support from the ministries is important, but also try to get local regional authorities involved. So her thinking on multi-level governance was there, but it was not, terminology was not the same as nowadays going on that. But she pointed out very much in her paper that it must be a political interest from the highest level in the national level. Otherwise, this work won't be successful. So, besides this very important networking, I remember I remember Bornholm, but I also remember some very interesting experience to be sent out, financed by the ministry, and I was asked by Görel Thurdin to go to Apatiti in Russia, in a meeting where just new started Barents Arctic region cooperation with some environmental conference organized in the very north. And I know Jacek Saucha took part in some others, and they were very astonished when they came to Murmansk by a Polish guy coming to Murmansk and tried to get another flight south to Apatiti. I don't know if you know, Apatiti is in a kind of mountain in northwestern Russia. And there it was a kind of spreading Görel Thurdin's intention that we must be spread and work together also with Barents region, which later on came into the same area. But at that time it was an own initiative by Norwegians, you know. And then we went, a group, to Nairobi. She also had some friends in Europe. The Baltic team should go to Nairobi to explain cooperation around the Baltic Sea. And those people in Nairobi on a high level, reappraising, planning and regional development, they didn't know where Baltic Sea was. They had a problem with Victoria Lake. But anyway, we did that, and they were so interested in what's going on, 11 countries around one lake trying to make some common joint approach for the future. So we were appreciated, the Baltic team. Alda Nicodemusa, Jan Kolegowski, he lost his clothes in the luggage, didn't come. But anyway, everything was fine, and so we really did a lot of meeting with other organizations. And what I want to say before I finalize is that the problem I had, you know, I'm not a native English person, and I have only studied in gymnasium English. So it was quite a complicated situation to meet all of you. But you are not either English speaking by birth. So we had a combination of bad and Baltish. Yeah, we talk Baltish. And that was very good because you can't hide yourself in some sentence you don't understand, but they sound very good. So you have to be quite honest and say, I don't understand, why should we do blah, blah. So it was very good. But then I should make the notes, the minutes. It sounds not very high level of English. So I went to Boverket, National Board of Housing, Building and Planning, and there was a Scottish guy employed by the secretary, by the head of that, and he offered a lot of time to translate our minutes to perfect English. And then I didn't understand what it was about. So after a while, I asked Jan Kolegowski and asked the group of Focal Point if we should have our own language and comments directly in the minutes, or we should have a perfect English one. And I was asked, take the normal one, which you all recognize yourself what you said, and not the perfect English. And it was very good because it took time to get this language support. So I was very happy. Now I can do my best, and everybody felt it's okay, because it was only minutes, it was not the report. Because when we made the report, we had a good English support by Holger Platz and others, all of you. So that language problem also made a lot of extra crazy work. And finally, I must say, I was in VASAB up to 95, 96. I got back to Boverket because the European Union Interreg hasn't started. You know that I was later on involved in drafting and came in the secretariat of Interreg 2C, which was the first program where also spatial planning was possible in the focus, even if it was ERDF and it was regional fund and economic regional development was, to my understanding, stronger put in focus and highlighted. But we could, and VASAB was successful. And I felt myself one leg in VASAB and one in Interreg Secretariat and the program regulation. So I had a kind of complicated situation to understand that VASAB also applied for money from the Interreg and were successful so far. They were successful. And that was very happy. And for me, VASAB, these 3-4 years, I think I came back sometimes in 97 or something before the Interreg started in the committee. But I felt that without VASAB, I wouldn't dare to start working in the European Union program of Baltic cooperation. So I have a lot to thank VASAB for my own professional and nice career up to retirement. So thank you, VASAB. And I hope you will finalize, not finalize, but you go on. And I'm interested to listen to Jacek Saucha afterward about maritime spatial planning, which was not in focus in the beginning, the maritime. So that's it. Thank you very much.
And we thank Bo Löwendahl for the speech and the overview. But does anyone have any comments, reflections, memories about the same period? Yes, there's someone there.
It wouldn't be, I hope I could feel like a member of VASAB family, although I was active in VASAB only few years. I think that for VASAB it's very important to attract influential people to be part of the family, but on the other hand it's also important to have influential friends whom we call friends. Friends are those who help VASAB or have helped VASAB or did help VASAB when they were able to. But friends are also people who still think about VASAB, and I just want to read a very short letter from one important VASAB friends. On the 20th anniversary of the strategic document agreed in 1994 in Tallinn, I would like to congratulate all members of VASAB family who have contributed to the development of the transnational strategic approach to policy challenges and opportunities that exist around the Baltic Sea. VASAB LTP supplies the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region with territorial dimension and facilitates an institutional framework in the Baltic Sea region. Since my time as a commissioner for regional policy, I have always seen this region as a successful EU enlargement laboratory. I took also the opportunity to address participants of the 6th Conference of Ministers in Gdańsk. I did it because I highly evaluate VASAB's role as a political process in which old and new member states, as well as the neighbors to the European Union, Belarus, Norway and Russia, created sustainable networks for territorial cooperation and policy making at various levels of governance, mentioned also already here. It's a way to foster political relations as well as economic integration in the whole Baltic Sea drainage basin, including Ukraine, a priority partner country within the European Neighbourhood Policy and the Eastern Partnership. I hope that cooperation of ministers responsible for spatial planning and development will continue to be an effective way to develop the Baltic Sea region into a model case of cross-border and transnational spatial planning and development towards territorial cohesion. And I am convinced that VASAB committee will have a leading role for the land-based spatial planning in the region. Sincerely, Danuta Hübner, Chair of the Committee on Constitutional Affairs, European Parliament, and the letter is to you, so I'm handing it in. So maybe it was the formal voice, but it was the voice about the context, which I consider very important, and VASAB was named political process. It is political process also. Thank you.
And thank you for the most interesting lecture and speech. And now, another comment.
My name is Bo Kjellen, and I'm at present a retired chief negotiator in the Ministry of Environment in Sweden. And I had a good opportunity. The chance was given to me to be involved with VASAB in the period 1994 to 1996. And since our minister Anna Lindh had difficulties in coming to the session in 1994 here in December of VASAB, the third ministerial conference, I went here and I had the opportunity of participating in this very important, the start of something very important. And I would like to underline how political it all has been all along, how important it is, as the previous speaker mentioned. Actually, what then happened to me was that I had been involved more in global negotiations, and I got completely hooked on Baltic cooperation at the time and at the notion of spatial planning. So it was a great satisfaction for me to be able to play a role together with Jan Koligowski also at the time when the Secretariat was based in Gdansk. And this is the second important point for me, the cooperation there, and I think we had the Baltic language as a common denominator, and that was in itself very important. But it was also the personal relations that were developing in this rather small group. And I think this has been one of the most important experiences in my professional life. Then I also had the opportunity of working as a chairman of a small group of different people from both HELCOM and from VASAB, others, on the development of the Baltic 21 in preparation for the Saltsjöbaden meeting in October 1996. And there, of course, Anna Lindh was part of this, and she had a great trust and belief in Baltic cooperation, which came through at that, in my view, very important meeting. I should also add, perhaps, I left then to consider other issues in the ministry, but I wanted also to recall that the 1994 meeting here in Tallinn came just a short period, few weeks after the Estonia disaster, and that in itself put a very special emphasis on the need for developing communications in all respects between the Baltic countries. And so I wanted also to pay my tribute to all of those who lost their lives there. They were part of the great feeling of cooperation and the great sense of community that we have in the Baltic region. So I'm grateful to have had that opportunity, and thank you very much.